Battle through the heavens, Grand World. Chapter 156 Enemy Attack. As the main base of Shao Clan, the Taiching Mansion naturally had the people of Shao Clan as the main force. However, there were also many people with different surnames, including a few big families. Without a doubt, these families were only the subordinates of Shao Yan. The people who had the most authority in the Taiching Mansion were the people of Shao Clan. There was no master in Taiching Mansion. As the local emperor, Shao Clan had long taken charge of the security, business, and everything else. In the surrounding few prefectures, the tentacles of Shao Clan stretched out. Although they didn't do whatever they wanted like in Taiching Mansion, the gangs that belonged to Shao Clan had become the most powerful sects in the area. Not only the Shao Clan, but also the four big families and many super sects in the Star Domain. Almost all of them were powerful existences in the prefecture where the headquarters was located. It was as if they had become a kingdom in the prefecture. Even so, under the control of the Domain Lord, these superpowers were like tamed beasts. On the surface, they were getting along well with each other. On the journey to Huayang Prefecture, Shao Yan had obtained a lot of information about the Star Domain from Lin Jian. Although it wasn't a secret, it had given Shao Yan a deeper understanding of the Star Moon Spirit Domain. Lin Jian had also heard some things about the super war that involved the various domains a million years ago. Although it was all fabricated, it indirectly explained the scariness of the war. It's said that at that time, the entire great world was in chaos. There were more ultimate saint expert than now, and the heavenly sovereign expert was just like the current emperor cultivation warriors. Basically, every major power had a few heavenly sovereign warriors. Speaking of the legends, Lin Jian seemed to be in a great mood. He immediately told Lin Jian everything he knew. I heard that the two heavenly sovereign who were messing around in the pill competition a few days ago were from the Nether Domain from Sect Master Shao. A million years ago, the Nether Domain was still a legendary Pure Land. Later on, no one knew what happened, but the Domain Master of the Nether Domain suddenly started to destroy all the powers in the big world. He led his sons and concubines to increase the intensity of the war once again. However, later on, the Domain Lord of the Star Domain and the Domain Lord of the Mingyan Divine Domain joined forces. He killed the Domain Lord of the Nether Domain in the Mingyan Divine Domain. After saying that, Lin Jian gazed at the mountains in the distance and said with emotion, finally, his sons and concubines were suppressed by all the experts. It was as if one of his concubines was suppressed in the southern Star Domain. A million years have passed, and everything has returned to dust. Shao Yan couldn't help but nod when he heard this. It had been so long. It was enough to transform the vast ocean into mulberry fields, even if it was a supreme saint. He had also died in the long river of time, even though the war back then was earth-shattering. The people in that great war, be it justice. No matter how evil, no matter how peerless it was, now that they were talking about it, it was just a casual outline. On day in pill competition, I think I heard those two heavenly sovereigns say that they are the law enforcers of Nether Domain. What does that mean? He pondered for a moment. Shao Yan looked at Lin Jian and asked curiously. Enforcer. Lin Jian pondered for a moment and said, I've heard from Sect Master Shao that Nether Domain is a region that is different from other regions. There are thousands of races there, and it is a mysterious place. It can be considered a place of cultivation, but it is also a place with many evil sects. The law enforcers are the names of the experts in the alliance formed by those evil sects. Shao Yan nodded silently when he heard this. It seemed like this Nether Domain was not a peaceful place. Awoo! Just as the two of them were silent, two hoarse low roars suddenly sounded beside their ears. Immediately, two black figures rushed out from the forest below. They were like black lightning as they roared towards the black feathered eagle that Shao Yan and the other man were riding. It's the profound marked Pixiu. How can there be such a rare heavenly beast here? When he saw the appearance of the two black figures, Lin Jian could not help but be startled. However, he did not have the time to think about it. He extended both of his hands and two short blades of various colors appeared in his hands. Brother Mr. Shao, sit down. I'll go and get rid of them. After his voice sounded, two nearly transparent wings had already formed on Lin Jian's back. With a flap of his wings, he had already leapt up from the back of the black feathered eagle and rushed towards the two profound marked Pixius. Profound marked Pixiu. Xiao Yan frowned when he heard this. The black-feathered eagle had received Lin Jian's order and was circling in the air. Xiao Yan also used this opportunity to clearly see the two profound marked Pixius that were fighting with Lin Jian. The profound marked Pixiu's body was like an ordinary wolf-shaped spirit beast, but it had a pair of indestructible antlers that were as sharp as deer horns. Its forehooves were like horses, and its tail was like a tiger's. It had a pair of eagle-like wings on its back, and the profound marked Pixiu was extremely rare. Due to its unique appearance, coupled with its gentle nature, although it had the strength of a low-grade heavenly beast, its true combat strength was equivalent to a high-grade spirit beast. As for the profound marked Pixiu, most people treated it as a pet. According to Xiaoyan's knowledge, most of the profound marked Pixiu lived deep in the mountains and forests. This was the border between the Spirit Heaven Mansion and Huayang Palace. It was just that the forest was a little more lush, but there would never be a heavenly beast like the profound marked Pixiu. Thinking of this, Xiao Yan narrowed his eyes and carefully looked at the two profound marked Pixius. Something's not right. After observing for a long time, Xiao Yan finally discovered a trace of a problem. Lin Jian's strength had already reached the level of 4 Monarch Emperor, and with the help of his middle-grade spirit weapon, he could now defeat two profound marked Pixiu. The intense battle didn't show any signs of winning. What was even stranger was that he had been attacked by Lin Jian. The docile profound marked Pixiu had become even more violent, as if it had been stimulated by Lin Jian's fierce attacks. Ethereal flash. Lin Jian also realized that something was wrong at this moment. He closed the twin sabers in his hands in front of his chest. He instantly activated the spirit weapon Monarch skill and struck one of the profound marked Pixius wings. The profound marked Pixiu let out a wail and fell to the ground. Strange. Seeing that the other profound marked Pixiu was not only not scared away, its attack had become even more fierce. Xiao Yan could not help but feel strange. After carefully looking for a while, he discovered that the eyes of this profound marked Pixiu faintly revealed a breathtaking red light. Awoo! Just as Xiao Yan was staring at the man and beast in the distance, a furious roar suddenly came from below. The profound marked Pixiu that was shot down by Lin Jian once again flew into the sky in fury. However, its target this time was Xiao Yan, who was on the back of the black-feathered eagle. Cree! The black-feathered eagle let out a sharp cry because of the intense murderous aura that was contained within the profound marked Pixiu. It was about to flap its wings and leave when the profound marked Pixiu's movement became even faster. In the air, the black-feathered eagle leapt forward and arrived in front of the black-feathered eagle. Its sharp claws clawed at the black-feathered eagle's neck with lightning speed. In an instant, fresh blood splattered across the sky. Brother Mr. Xiao. Lin Jian turned around and saw the eagle fall from the sky with a wail. Xiao Yan, who was on its back, fell as well. He couldn't help but break out in a cold sweat. Xiao Yan was only a monarch spirit level warrior. If he fell from a height of nearly 100 meters, wouldn't he be dead for sure? Thinking of this, Lin Jian furiously shouted. After forcing back the profound marked Pixiu in front of him, he wanted to rush over and save Xiao Yan. As soon as Lin Jian turned around, the profound marked Pixiu that he had shot down earlier had already arrived in front of him. It roared furiously, trying to stop Lin Jian from saving Xiao Yan. Woo! A fist-sized bloody hole was left on the neck of the black-feathered eagle by the sharp claws of the profound marked Pixiu. Blood kept flowing out from the hole. The life force in the black-feathered eagle's eyes was quickly extinguished, and it powerlessly fell from the sky. Xiao Yan held the feather on the back of the black-feathered eagle tightly with both of his hands. He looked at the ground that was getting closer and closer. His eyes flashed even though he was sitting on the back of the eagle. If he fell from this height, he would most likely be thrown into confusion. While his eyes were flashing, Xiao Yan's gaze suddenly fell on a giant tree below. The giant tree was extremely thick, and its leaves were lush and lush. It was like a canopy that covered the sky and covered the sun. Xiao Yan didn't hesitate at all. His entire body was protected by the Origin Monarch Key, and he stood up. Both of his feet suddenly stepped on the back of the black-feathered eagle, and with the help of his powerful strength, he rushed towards the crown of the tree in front of him. He quickly grabbed onto a vine, and in the next moment, the black-feathered eagle's huge body smashed into the ground, causing the ground to sink a little. Xiao Yan grabbed the vine and shook it for a moment. Only then did he firmly jump onto the ground. Looking at the sky, the two profound marked Pixius were still tightly entangled with Lin Jian. Xiao Yan glanced at the empty forest around him and suddenly felt a chill in his heart. Chapter N. Chapter 157 Mysterious Enemy. Awoo. When Xiao Yan looked around, another painful roar of the profound marked Pixiu came from the air. After that, another profound marked Pixiu landed heavily on the ground. It was only a few meters away from Xiao Yan. Xiao Yan frowned when he saw that the profound marked Pixiu hadn't fallen even after suffering such a serious injury. Instead, it roared and wanted to stand up again. He rushed forward and instantly unleashed the Sky Spill Fist. A huge force violently struck the injured part of the profound marked Pixiu. After being strengthened by the body tempering liquid, Xiao Yan's body strength was comparable to an ordinary emperor. This punch immediately caused the profound marked Pixiu to howl in pain, and the red light in its eyes became denser and denser. At the same time, the murderous aura on the profound marked Pixiu's body became heavier and heavier. Its blood-red eyes stared at Xiao Yan, and it kept roaring towards the sky. When Xiao Yan saw this, his expression suddenly became serious. The normally peaceful heavenly beast suddenly became like this. If it wasn't because of the external conditions, then it was because of the changes in his body. Thinking of this, Xiao Yan's enormous soul energy instantly spread out from between his brows. His middle period of alien stage soul spread out like a large net, and began to search for this forest. When he landed on the ground, Xiao Yan instinctively felt a trace of a frightening feeling, as if there was a light on his back. This feeling was even more obvious now. Compared to the past, the soul force that was much stronger had almost covered the entire forest. Xiao Yan held his breath and focused his mind, using his instinct to feel the fear that caused his scalp to go numb. Boom! At this moment, another profound marked Pixiu fell to the ground in a sorry state. It pressed down on a few giant trees, and painful screams kept sounding out. Lin Jian slowly landed on the ground, calming his breathing. Logically speaking, after suffering such a heavy attack, ordinary low-level Lin Jians couldn't move. But these two heavenly beasts, whose combined strength was inferior to the low-grade profound marked Pixius, were actually so powerful. Awoo! The profound marked Pixiu that was struck down by Lin Jian struggled. Although blood was flowing out from its body, the murderous aura slowly became grave. The red glow in its eyes suddenly became even more intense after a moment of condensation. After which, it staggered and stood up while roaring. Yes. When the red light flashed in the profound marked Pixiu's eyes, Xiao Yan suddenly frowned. He immediately looked at a huge rock not far away. Immediately, his soul energy condensed into a single piece and he attacked the huge rock without hesitation. Buzz! As soon as the soul power hit the rock, there was a sound in the air. Then, a strange feeling filled the air, making Xiao Yan's soul power tremble. Lin Jian also felt it. He looked around in surprise and finally looked at the huge rock not far away. Xiao Yan's eyes were fixed on the huge rock. In the next moment, a black figure gradually appeared. Looking at the sudden appearance of the black-robed man, Xiao Yan frowned. He could actually feel an indescribable sense of panic from this black-robed man, especially his blood-red eyes. It was as if he would fall into his eyes if he took a glance at him. Who are you? Lin Jian was also startled by the sudden appearance of the black-robed man. Immediately after, he let out a stern shout, and the short knife in his hand appeared, emitting a sharp light. The man in black was short, and his entire body was covered by the black robe. Only his eyes were exposed, and his eyes were filled with blood. If one looked closely, the blood seemed to be flowing slowly. These two profound marked Pixius are controlled by you. Seeing that the black-robed man didn't say anything, Xiao Yan looked at the struggling profound marked Pixius under his feet, and said with a cold expression. When the black-robed man heard this, for the first time, his blood-red eyes seemed to have some life force in them. His eyes stared at Xiao Yan and Lin Jian, and his hoarse voice slowly sounded, "Kiki. How is it? These two heavenly beasts, whose strength can't even reach the low-grade heavenly beast, have their strength increased by a lot under my control." When they heard the words of the black-robed man, Xiao Yan's and Lin Jian's expressions changed slightly. Xiao Yan secretly exhaled a breath of air. It seemed like his guess was correct. There was indeed someone controlling him. Lin Jian looked at the black-robed man in shock. What did this guy do to allow these two heavenly beasts, which had barely reached the level of an emperor, to possess the strength to fight an ordinary monarch emperor? What do you want? He stared at the man in black's blood-red eyes. Xiao Yan said word by word. The origin monarch ki in his body began to circulate quietly. He couldn't see the strength of this man in front of him, not even his soul force could detect him. It was impossible for Xiao Yan to be careless when facing an unknown enemy. The black-robed man's body trembled. He didn't make any moves. He had already arrived not far away from Xiao Yan and Lin Jian. He glanced at the two struggling profound-marked Pixius and said in a gloomy voice. Since these two trash have been defeated, then it's useless. After saying that, he stretched out his hand and clenched it into a fist. When the man in black spoke, Xiao Yan sensed that something was wrong. When he saw the man reach out his hand, Xiao Yan's eyelids twitched. He shouted at Lin Jian, "Brother Lin, leave quickly." After saying that, a gust of wind blew under his feet. 9 revolving wind shifting technique was instantly unleashed. Lin Jian's figure flashed after he regained his senses. Accompanied by the faint sound of thunder and wind, the two of them quickly distanced themselves from this place. In the next moment, the two struggling profound-marked Pixius suddenly howled in pain. The red light in their eyes shone brightly. Shortly after, the surface of their bodies was instantly covered with blood-colored patterns. The moment the patterns appeared, the two profound-marked Pixius bodies suddenly exploded. The huge impact caused the nearby trees to be cut in half, and dust filled the air. The black-robed man looked at Xiao Yan and the other man with blood-red eyes. His emotionless voice sounded once again, "You hid pretty quickly. The two profound-marked Pixius just now were just a test. Now, I'll let you guys have a look at this." After saying that, the black-robed man waved his hand. A dazzling blood-red light flashed in his blood-red eyes, and then a roar of pain came from afar, and upon hearing this voice, Xiao Yan and Lin Jian's facial expression turned serious. When they saw the giant red lion in the sky, Xiao Yan was shocked. This giant lion, when he and Zhou Yuan were planning Suo Quan's treasure in Forest Domain, they had met on that rainy night. It was the barbaric bloody lion. Currently, the barbaric bloody lion seemed to have mutated. 2 blood-red wings were stretched out from its broad back. Its blood-red eyes were staring at Xiao Yan and Lin Jian below. Its originally ferocious face was now even more terrifying. It kept letting out low and deep roars, as if it was an ancient ferocious beast that was ready to devour someone. Let me give you a reminder. This barbaric bloody lion has at least the strength of 8 monarch emperor warriors. It can even fight an emperor cultivation warrior. My first proud creation will start with the two of you. The black-robed man's voice rang out once again, and then a red light flashed in his eyes. It was as if the barbaric bloody lion had received an order, and it roared furiously towards the sky. Then, it rushed towards Xiao Yan and Lin Jian who were standing on the ground. "I'll go and deal with it. Brother Mr. Xiao, you must be careful." Clenching his teeth tightly, Lin Jian let out a furious roar. The wings on his back flapped, and he rushed towards the barbaric bloody lion that was filled with a murderous aura. A man and a beast collided fiercely, creating a deafening sound that shook the sky. After that, Lin Jian was forced back dozens of steps in the air. The barbaric bloody lion only shook its body for a moment, then it let out a bloodthirsty roar and charged towards Lin Jian once again. Xiao Yan retracted his gaze from the sky. He stared at the black-robed man in the distance and said in a serious voice, "That barbaric bloody lion was controlled by you, right? Since that's the case, as long as I kill you, then your control over it will be lifted." At the end of his words, Xiao Yan's voice was filled with thick killing intent. "You, a puny monarch spirit, want to attack me?" The black-robed man who saw Xiao Yan's strength sneered and said, "Didn't you want to know my identity? Fine. As long as you can withstand my attack, I will tell you. Otherwise, a dead man is not worthy to know." As he spoke, the black-robed man extended a hand, and a ball of bloody light quickly condensed in his hand. When Xiao Yan saw this, he pursed his lips and said with a cold smile, "Then let's give it a try." Chapter N. Chapter 158 Gu Wu. Arrogant. The black-robed man gave Xiao Yan a glance with his blood-red eyes. After that, he let out a soft shout, and blood gushed out from his palm. In an instant, it had already turned into a blood-red light ball. Xiaoyan's expression became solemn when he sensed the pressure coming from the light ball. He did not dare to be careless. With a flip of his palm, the blue flame ruler appeared in his hand. The origin monarch key within his body had long surged like a surging river. It could unleash a formidable attack at any time. Puff! At this moment, Lin Jian was violently slapped to the ground by the barbaric bloody lion. Although he had the strength to deflect the force from the barbaric bloody lion, the tremendous impact still caused him to crash into an ancient tree. He immediately spurted out a mouthful of blood, and his face turned a lot paler. His attack was too weak in the face of the frenzied barbaric bloody lion. The spirit weapon's monarch skill had no effect on the latter's body. While Xiao Yan was distracted by Lin Jian's injury, the black-robed man laughed lightly. The blood-red light ball in his hand was like a bolt of lightning as it shot towards Xiao Yan. Its speed was so fast that it seemed as if it had passed through space. In the blink of an eye, it had arrived in front of Xiao Yan. Kai! Xiao Yan's reaction was not slow at all. The blue flame ruler swept across like a bolt of lightning and collided violently with the blood-colored light bullet. A golden-red monarch flame instantly appeared on the ruler's surface, wrapping around the blood-red light ball. Seeing that the swift and fierce attack did not achieve the expected result, the person under the black robe could not help but let out a surprised voice. Then, with a flick of his finger, the blood-colored light ball suddenly trembled, and then exploded with a loud bang. Sensing the danger coming from the ruler, Xiaoyan's brows knitted. The crimson gold flame grew with the wind, forming a huge fire curtain that completely blocked the huge energy produced by the explosion of the blood-colored ball of light. Even so, Xiao Yan was still hit by the powerful impact. His body flew backwards, and his feet stomped on the tree trunk behind him. Only then did his body stop flying. Seeing that Xiao Yan was almost unharmed, the black-robed man's blood-red eyes looked indifferently at the former. After that, he looked at the blue flame ruler in Xiao Yan's hand that was tightly clenched. After that, he looked at the crimson gold flame that was jumping on it. Now, tell me your identity. He stood firmly on the ground and calmed down the origin monarch key that was rolling around in his body. He glanced at Lin Jian who was entangled with the barbaric bloody lion in the air. Xiao Yan retracted his gaze and looked at the black-robed man who was not far away. He said in a cold voice, "Your flame doesn't look like a beast fire." The black-robed man looked at the scarlet golden flame on the blue flame ruler and spoke in an indifferent tone. "Humph." Xiao Yan sneered upon hearing this. With a flip of his palm, the blue flame ruler disappeared. After that, he clenched his fists tightly and said with a calm expression, "Cut the crap. Who are you?" A glimmer of light flashed across the black-robed man's blood-red eyes. He looked at Xiao Yan and said unhurriedly, "According to the way you called me in ancient times, you can call me Soul Demon. But now, the name Gu Wu is more pleasant to hear." Soul Demon. Gu Wu. Hearing these two unfamiliar names, Xiao Yan could not help but be slightly stunned. Humph. Looks like after so many years, everyone has forgotten about us. However, it's normal for a puny monarch spirit like you to not know about it. You are really lucky that you don't know about the scariness of the Gu Wu clan. That will be a nightmarish existence. Now, I will let you experience it for yourself." The black-robed man's voice was gloomy, as if he was saying, "I just controlled that barbaric bloody lion here, and I found traces of you all. It just so happens that I can test the strength of the barbaric bloody lion that I control. Now, it seems like it's still possible." As he spoke, the black-robed man looked towards the sky. In midair, Lin Jian was desperately dodging the crazy attacks of the barbaric bloody lion. One of the short sabers had completely shattered, and he was obviously at a disadvantage. Control. Xiao Yan was startled when he heard this. He suddenly thought of the two red eyes of the two profound marked Pixius, and the eyes of the barbaric bloody lion were also filled with blood-red color. "No matter what, I'll get rid of you first. At that time, the barbaric bloody lion should be able to escape your control." He frowned. Xiao Yan looked at the black-robed man and said coldly. As he spoke, the monarch flame flowed along his meridians, mixing with the origin monarch key and circulating slowly. "Deal with me. You don't know the immensity of heaven and earth. I only need one hand to make you die a graveless death." The black-robed man's sinister voice suddenly rang out. Then, He said, "Do you know why I'm here?" Without waiting for Xiaoyan's reply, the black-robed man continued, "Because this is the place where Nether Imperial Consort Satsuma fell 1,000,000 years ago. This is an extremely rare pure yin place." As he spoke, the black-robed man shouted loudly. He stretched out his hand and endless black light shot out from his palm. In the next moment, the black light had already spread into the air. Before Xiao Yan could react, it had already been enveloped by the black light. The black-robed man sneered. With a flash, he appeared on the huge rock that had just appeared. He said in a gloomy voice, "Lucky fellow, I'll let you experience the terror of a Gumagus. I don't even need to do anything to get rid of you." Buzz. Xiao Yan, who had fallen into the black light, suddenly had a flash in front of his eyes. When he opened his eyes again, the black-robed man in the forest in front of him had vanished. Only endless darkness remained, as if he had arrived in the depths of hell. What is this place? Xiao Yan looked around. There was not a trace of light in his eyes. In the dead and lifeless space, there was an endless pressure coming towards Xiao Yan. Woo! Suddenly, something strange happened. The endless black color in front of him faded, and a silent space suddenly appeared. Following the sudden release of a force that caused one's heart to tremble, an endless amount of deathly yin qi quickly gathered in front of Xiao Yan. What is this? Xiao Yan looked at a girl that was gradually forming not far away in shock. The girl had white hair that extended to the horizon. Her beautiful face was a pale color, and her pale and lifeless eyes seemed to have a soul-stirring power. It was like a deep spring, causing one to feel like indulging in it. Her white clothes further accentuated her holiness, as if she was a fairy from the highest heavens. She was sacred and could not be deceived. The girl looked at Xiao Yan with her pale eyes. Without saying anything, several strands of white hair suddenly shot out from her back, piercing through the void like sharp swords that could cut through the blue sky. The moment the girl attacked, Xiao Yan's mind suddenly moved. He remembered Lin Jian and the black-robed man. Seeing the girl launching her attack, Xiao Yan didn't dare to be careless. All the monarch flames on his body surged out, and he instantly unleashed the heavenly monarch fire-burning body. The strength of an emperor erupted, and his hands, which were wrapped by the monarch flame, grabbed the incoming white hairs with great speed. Woo! Even though he had the monarch flame to protect his hands, the moment he grabbed the white hair, Xiao Yan still felt a heart-piercing pain from his palm. It was as if his palm had been cut open by a dagger. Kai. Although it was painful, the effect was extremely obvious. When the few white hair in his hand came into contact with the monarch flame, they swiftly emitted a sizzling sound. In the blink of an eye, these white hair had already turned into dust and dissipated. The woman stopped attacking when she saw the flame on Xiaoyan's body. Her lifeless eyes stared intently at the scarlet golden flame that covered Xiaoyan's body. It was only when the white hair was burned into ashes by Xiao Yan did she regain her senses. She quickly retracted her hand and looked at her palm. Although she wasn't injured, there was a burning pain coming from her palm. Xiao Yan furrowed his brows and looked at the elegant girl not far away. His heart was in turmoil. Based on his rich experience, he should have entered the illusory space of the black-robed man, and this lady should be the core of the illusory space. Only by defeating her would he be able to get out. Furthermore, if what Lin Jian and the black-robed man said was true, it was very likely that this girl had already fallen for 1,000,000 years. She was one of the wives and concubines of the domain lord of Nether Domain, the powerful Nether Imperial Consort Satsuma. Chapter End. Chapter 159 Dark Consort Samoyed. As one of the main culprits who had followed the legendary Nether Domain Master to wreak havoc in the Great World 1,000,000 years ago, Nether Imperial Consort's strength was naturally beyond doubt. Her strength might even be higher than Elder Yi's when she was alive. Xiaoyan's mind spun quickly. Since this was the place where Nether Imperial Consort Satsuma died, according to the black-robed man, this was also a pure yin place. With the abilities of the Gu Wu, it was possible that they could use the pure yin energy here to create Nether Imperial Consort's appearance. However, this Nether Imperial Consort's strength was definitely not as powerful as when she was alive. It was not even 1/10,000th of her original strength. Just now, she could use the monarch flame to burn off her white hair attack, which was the most powerful evidence. Even so, this Nether Imperial Consort's strength was definitely above his. Perhaps she had already reached the monarch emperor. Looking at the former, she could see the horizon. A head of white hair that could freely stretch and shrink. Xiao Yan couldn't help but suck in a deep breath. Just now, he had only destroyed a few of them, but his palm was already filled with a heart-piercing pain. If he were to face so many strands of white hair, he really didn't know how to deal with them. Nether Imperial Consort Satsuma withdrew her lifeless eyes. In the next moment, her head faced the sky. She extended her arms and her slender waist gently drifted. After which, the white hair on her head moved even though there was no wind. Like dense arrows, countless white hair rushed towards Xiao Yan at lightning speed. The black flame burned on her white hair. Wherever the flame passed, the space would be corroded. In the forest, the black-robed man sat cross-legged on a huge rock. He placed one hand on his chest and a faint black light flashed on his palm. There seemed to be an undetectable energy fluctuation on the black light, and it was connected to the black light that enveloped Xiao Yan in the distance. The black-robed man raised his head and looked at Xiao Yan, who was motionless because of the black light. A strange light flashed in the black-robed man's blood-red eyes. He mumbled to himself, Nether Imperial Consort, formed from pure yin qi, although her strength is only at the monarch emperor. Furthermore, Nether Imperial Consorts means are far beyond your imagination. Just obediently die in the illusion realm. The sinister voice revealed a terrifying smile. Then, it looked at the sky. The red light in its blood-red eyes became even brighter. That fellow is also about to die. It seems that my witchcraft GU technique has improved. It is enough to allow the heavenly beast, which is only at the level of an emperor, to reach its current level. In the air, Lin Jian used all his strength to barely dodge the barbaric bloody lion's crazy attack. He panted as he looked at the barbaric bloody lion in front of him, which was becoming more and more brave as the battle progressed. It seemed that the barbaric bloody lion was not tired at all. The corner of Lin Jian's mouth revealed a helpless bitter smile. No matter how powerful a normal barbaric bloody lion was, it only had the strength to fight an ordinary monarch emperor level expert. This one in front of him. It was extraordinary. It had completely toyed with him, a mere monarch emperor. If it wasn't for the fact that he had many powerful monarch skill, he would have been beheaded by now. Wiping the blood from the corner of his mouth, Lin Jian couldn't help but look down. When he saw the black-robed man sitting cross-legged on the huge rock, the doubt in his heart became even heavier. Who exactly was this guy? He could actually control the spirit beast and increase their strength by such a terrifying amount. When Lin Jian saw Xiao Yan, he couldn't help but be shocked. At this moment, Xiao Yan's body was surrounded by a black light, and he stood motionless on the spot. Lin Jian felt a chill on his back when he saw this. Could it be that he has been controlled? Thinking of this, Lin Jian didn't dare delay any longer. His eyes moved, and then his body trembled. He rushed towards the direction of the black-robed man, wanting to kill the black-robed man first before saving Xiao Yan. Awoo! When the barbaric bloody lion saw its target suddenly turn around and leave, it let out a furious roar. It flapped its wings and arrived next to Lin Jian like a red meteor. Its sharp claws violently struck down, forcing Lin Jian to stop and continue to fight the barbaric bloody lion. In the illusory space, Xiao Yan's body was burning with monarch flames. The blue flame ruler in his hand was waving like a tiger, carrying the crimson gold flame along with it. It was entangled with the white hair that filled the sky. At this moment, the fine hairs were like iron whips that struck Xiao Yan's body. A burning pain came from every part of his body. Although there was not a single wound, the pain was deep in his bone marrow. Boom! Xiao Yan waved the blue flame rulers in his right hand. The crimson gold flames that surrounded it roared, turning several white fever into ashes. At the same time, he waved his left hand, releasing a sea of fire. The fire shot in all directions, turning countless white hair into ashes. Puff! Unfortunately, the white hair around him was endless. Even though the monarch flame protected him tightly, there were still many strands of white hair that penetrated into Xiao Yan's body, violently striking his body. The terrifying force caused Xiao Yan's body to tremble, causing pain to surge out like tidal waves. Nether Imperial Consort Satsuma stood quietly on the spot and looked at Xiao Yan with a pair of lifeless eyes. She had no intention of attacking him. I can't go on like this. I can't finish burning her hair. I won't be able to hold on until she attacks. I have to think of a way. Another strand of white hair was whipped on his leg. Xiao Yan endured the pain. He felt the empty origin monarch key in his body and quickly thought of a way. Oh right, since it's an illusion, I think the soul force will be effective. Thinking of this, Xiao Yan temporarily slowed down his attack and allowed more white strands of hair to hit his body. Between his eyebrows, a majestic soul force rushed out and smashed towards Nether Imperial Consort Satsuma like Mount Tai. As if she felt the vibration in the air, Satsuma raised her head and looked in the direction where Xiaoyan's soul force came from. A faint light flashed in her lifeless eye sockets. After that, she raised both of her hands up high. A mysterious force suddenly burst out from her body, forming the moment when the soul energy was about to land on her body. Wang! The soul violently smashed down and collided with the mysterious force that erupted from Satsuma's body, causing the void to tremble. After that, the ripples in the space gradually dissipated under Xiaoyan's disbelieving gaze. Soul attack actually didn't work. Xiao Yan looked at Nether Imperial Consort Satsuma in astonishment and frowned. This was the first time he had seen an enemy that did not fear soul force. This time, it was somewhat troublesome. Sensing the slight vibration of the black light in his hand, a trace of blood-red light flashed across the eyes of the black-robed man. After that, he smiled grimly and mumbled, "Soul attack. Hee, this is really courting death. Soul energy has no effect on Nether Imperial Consort at all. According to the legends, even experts with ancient stage souls were killed by Nether Imperial Consort. Not to mention you." Boom. He casually threw out a ball of flame and burned the white hairs that were about to hit his chest. He felt that his body was getting weaker and weaker. Xiao Yan could not help but smile bitterly. This time, he was in big trouble. His strongest trump card, the Buddha Fury Fire Lotus, did not have the time to fuse. Other than that, he had used almost all of his trump cards, but he still could not do anything to the flying white hair, not to mention Nether Imperial Consort Satsuma herself. Seeing that Xiaoyan's physical strength was not enough, Nether Imperial Consort Satsuma finally moved. Her body floated in the air like an ethereal spirit, and she gently stretched out a finger. In an instant, a black light surged from the fingertip, and the pure black color formed a sharp contrast with the white robe she was wearing. The black light jumped on her fingertip. When Xiao Yan sensed it, a fearful danger instantly emerged from the bottom of his heart. The black light on Satsuma's fingertip flashed and disappeared. At the same time, Xiaoyan's expression changed. His arm that was holding the blue flame ruler suddenly became numb and fell down powerlessly. A bone-deep pain came from it, causing beads of sweat to drip down from Xiaoyan's forehead. Seeing Xiaoyan's right arm hanging down, a rare smile appeared on Satsuma's cold face. She withdrew her finger and slowly walked towards Xiao Yan. At the same time, the image of a black skeleton that was 1,000 feet in size slowly appeared behind him. The skeleton held a huge sickle in its hand. The sickle was circulating with a blood-red light. It seemed to contain enough power to destroy the heaven and earth. What a powerful aura! Xiao Yan, who was gasping for breath, looked at the huge black skeleton behind Satsuma. He felt that there seemed to be a boundless and powerful key on it. His somewhat confused eyes suddenly became focused. Chapter end. Chapter 163,000 Zhang white hair. The shadow of the black skeleton behind Satsuma became more solid as she moved. A substance like chi soared into the sky like an evil god in the underworld, filling the entire space. As the bloody side in the skeleton's hand swung, the space was silently split open. Two blood-red flames were dancing slowly in the empty eye sockets of the skeleton. The black bones were emitting a blood-red light, as if it could suppress the sky for thousands of years. It looked at Xiao Yan, who was the size of an ant. Kiki. The Bone Emperor summoned by Nether Imperial Consort is powerful enough to kill a supreme saint. This brat is going to die for sure. Feeling the vibration coming from the black light in his hand, the black-robed man smiled sinisterly. He clenched his hand and the black light dissipated. Then, his blood-red eyes looked towards the sky. He muttered to himself, "Now, control the barbaric bloody lion with all your mind and kill this monarch emperor. After that, control this monarch emperor as well." As he spoke, the blood-red light in his eyes intensified. At the same time, the barbaric bloody lion seemed to have received some kind of stimulation, and its attack became even fiercer. Lin Jian was caught off guard, and a deep bloody mark that was so deep that even his bones could be seen was left on his chest. Within the illusory space, Nether Imperial Consort Satsuma gracefully walked over, and her steps were filled with the calmness of controlling the world. The black skeleton behind her was like a giant that supported the heaven and earth. It raised the blood-red sickle high, as if it wanted to split the heaven and earth. Qi. Xiao Yan supported his body that was in unbearable pain. His eyes flashed with the last clarity. When he was in the illusion realm, Elder Yi had created a few ferocious beasts that had the key of ancient spirit beasts. When he used his key to resist, he had obtained absolute victory. At this moment, looking at the blood-red sickle slowly chopping down, Xiao Yan was unusually calm. He closed his eyes and probed the prestige power spell in his body with his soul. Although the latter had fallen into a dormant state, it had assimilated with his soul and could still be activated. Kai. The blood-red sickle cut through the void and flew towards Xiao Yan who was below. Nether Imperial Consort Satsuma had her hands behind her back and her lifeless eyes looked indifferently at the motionless Xiao Yan who was not far away. A trace of a cold smile actually appeared on her lips. Buzz. When the blade of the blood-red sickle was only a few feet away from Xiao Yan's head, Xiao Yan suddenly opened his eyes. Immediately after that, an energy that was comparable to an ordinary supreme saint rushed out from the top of his head. The energy was filled with the tyrant's imperial power, as if it was going to break open the heaven and earth. The energy that was almost corporeal rushed towards the black skeleton like a tsunami. Ka. At the same time when the energy rushed out of Xiaoyan's skull, the blood-red scythe that was a few feet away from Xiaoyan's head suddenly stopped falling. In the next moment, the scythe that was dozens of feet long suddenly broke into pieces, turning into nothingness. Nether Imperial Consort Satsuma's indifferent expression changed slightly when this key appeared. Her lifeless eyes looked at the almost tangible monstrous key and nodded her head slightly thoughtfully. The Supreme Saint aura soared into the sky and the blood-red sickle that the black skeleton was holding had already been broken. Sensing the aura that was rushing towards it, the blood-red flames in the black skeleton's eye sockets became even more violent. All of the black bones on its body glowed with a blood-red light. In an instant, it had already turned into a blood-red screen, protecting its 300-meter-tall body and Nether Imperial Consort Satsuma within it. Kai. The boundless aura was like a surging river as it crashed onto the blood-red screen. The black skeleton's sinister voice continued to roar. The blood-red flame in its eye sockets flashed with a strange red light as it maintained the stability of the blood-red screen. For a moment, the powerful aura attack was actually unable to break through the screen. After the black skeleton protected Nether Imperial Consort Satsuma and Nether Imperial Consort Satsuma on the blood-red screen, Satsuma's white hair attack finally stopped. Although Xiaoyan's body did not have any injuries, the burning pain on his body made him suck in a breath of cold air. Fortunately, his body had been strengthened before, otherwise, he might not be able to stand still. Xiaoyan's right hand was hanging down powerlessly. Taking advantage of the momentum and confrontation with the blood screen, he stretched out his left hand and a crimson gold flame appeared out of thin air. The flame shook and turned into a Xiaoyi. Under the control of Xiaoyan's mind, the Xiaoyi made a light sound and closed its small hand. A fire lotus that was much smaller than a real Buddha Fury fire lotus instantly appeared and was thrown towards the blood screen. Bang! Although the power was much weaker and did not cause any harm to the skeleton and Satsuma, Xiaoyan was still happy to find that there was a slight crack on the screen that was hit by the fire lotus. As for Nether Imperial Consort Satsuma, Xiaoyan only found two things that were effective against her. One was the Monarch Flame and the other was the Key attack. As for the remaining soul attack, the damage of the Monarch skill attack was almost negligible. Since the Monarch Flame's attack was effective, Xiaoyan no longer held back. He ordered the Xiaoyi to keep throwing out fire lotuses in his heart. He stared at the blood-red screen with full concentration, hoping to launch the final attack. On the screen, Nether Imperial Consort Satsuma, who was standing with her hands behind her back, looked at the Xiaoyi in Xiaoyan's hand. Then, she looked forward and saw some cracks on the blood-red screen. For the first time, she frowned slightly. Crack. Under the continuous bombardment of the fire lotus, a clear cracking sound was heard from the blood-red screen. Xiaoyan, who had been waiting for an opportunity, suddenly focused his eyes and shouted. Boundless Ki gathered at one point, like a sharp sword that could tear the heaven and earth, and it fiercely smashed towards the blood-red screen. Buzz! Xiao Yan felt a jolt in his mind. After which, he discovered that the blood-colored screen had already disappeared into nothingness. A monstrous Ki continuously rushed out from the top of his head and into the black skeleton's body. The black skeleton's struggling movements also slowly froze. The demonic blood-colored flame in its eye sockets gradually extinguished. The blood-colored light on the black skeleton gradually faded. Accompanied by a soft but loud bone-cracking sound, the black skeleton, which was 1,000 feet in size, had completely turned into nothingness in the next instant. A monstrous aura spiraled above Satsuma's head. Xiao Yan stared unwaveringly at this nether imperial consort who was the strongest in the great world a million years ago. At this moment, the latter was standing with her hands behind her back. Her slender waist was tightly tied by a blue belt. She was elegant and calm. Her head of white hair was scattered along her waist and it led to the endless space behind her. Her white hair was 3 kilometers long. At this moment, Nether Imperial Consort's lifeless eyes looked at Xiao Yan and shook her head. Her beautiful face was pale but charming. As if sighing, Satsuma looked up to the sky and her white hair moved. Then, under Xiao Yan's shocked expression, Satsuma's figure gradually disappeared and finally turned into nothingness. What's going on? Before Xiao Yan could recover from his shock, his figure had already disappeared from this spatial zone. Nether Imperial Consort Satsuma had disappeared. The core of this illusory realm was destroyed. The illusory realm created by the black-robed man began to cultivate and dissipate after Xiao Yan disappeared. All of a sudden, a strand of white hair stretched out from nowhere. Wherever the white hair passed, the space would collapse. Even so, this illusionary realm was maintained by a trace of force. King, I am here, waiting for you to return. Endless sighs slowly sounded in this illusory realm. It was like a low sigh that came from the primeval times, passed through the endless primeval times, passed through the long river of time, and resounded in this strange space for a long time. Chapter end. Hi guys, please like, comment, share, and subscribe.